focus on purpose. How can I serve my clients at the highest level? How can I create an amazing support system? How can I make people believe and feel like when they work with me, they've made the right choice and that they can trust me to do a good job? How do they feel like their life will change because I've partnered with them? That's my purpose.
Yeah. The typical small business owner isn't running towards something. They're running away from something. So there's a big difference between someone with a company that's running towards a destiny, a purpose, a mission, a mandate. These people become unstoppable. They do hard things. They show up. They grind different. Their vision's bigger.
All right. We are back with another episode of the Real Concrete Coating TalkPod. Super excited to have this guest on my podcast today. Oh my God. I can't tell you how excited I am because this guy has been a massive inspiration for me for years. Back in the window cleaning days when I owned my window cleaning business, he was my coach. And he was an amazing coach. And he's always been a mentor to me throughout all his stuff that he puts out online and all the things that he's doing. Really does drive me a lot to keep moving forward. Obviously, I have my own reasons, but it's always been great. I can probably count on one hand how many people in my circle that have been such an inspiration for me in terms of business and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And definitely you're right at the top there, Josh. And like I said, I probably know you more than you know me, which is kind of great, right?
Yeah, man. We go back a long time. And one of my favorite quotes is "Don't despise small beginnings." And I remember just meeting you years and years ago, and to see what you've done and what you've built and how your brain is like just so developed with business. And like, I don't know, that whole story arc of the Rudy story arc is really, really interesting. And I think it's similar to a lot of people out there. Like, they're in the field fighting the good fight. It feels really hard. It feels like this Mount Everest that they're climbing.
Oh yeah.
And to watch you kind of just start crushing it is awesome. It's freaking awesome. Podcasts like this are awesome. Community is awesome. Everyone listening to this episode is a weirdo. Okay, definitionally, who listens to a floor coating marketing? You're weird, right? But these are your people. Like, we're your people. Rudy is your people, and we need each other. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So for a lot of people, I mean, everybody in the window cleaning, pressure washing, and all that kind of side of this home service business realm know who you are, at least for the most part. But there's always new people coming in too. But for the concrete coating space, can you kind of just talk to me a little bit about who you kind of are, where you came from, and like, what you're doing now, and like what brought you, like, where are you now?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Scorpio and a hopeless romantic who enjoys long walks on the beach after sunset. No,
I was waiting for that.
I'll do it really fast because on the one hand, it's like, who cares, right? But here's the thing. Married 21 years, 5 kids, built and sold 4 companies in 3 different industries. Started with local home service, but I'm an investor and an owner of a lot of different things, from commercial real estate to software and all these things. But we started really poor. I was a pizza delivery driver. We lived in a trailer park. I have a bachelor's degree in pain and a master's degree in suffering. Been bankrupt, I think my core competency is probably marketing, growth, mindset, things like that. I started a podcast years ago that had like 1 million downloads in this little niche of cleaning companies. I didn't think anyone would listen to it, but a bunch of people did. But our heart is for entrepreneur families. Today, I run a company called War Plan. War Plan is basically just teaches really interesting, different ways to look at what marketing is. One of our slogans is that marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And I'm not talking about Facebook ads and Google AdWords. What I'm talking about is the way that you think. The way to make a lot more money is to change your mindsets and your framing of how you look at things, right? I think that everybody is marketing all the time. Like, the way you parent your kids is marketing. It's choreographed communication, right? Like, the way you smell is marketing. The way that you create a dating profile is definitely marketing, right? So whether you realize it or not, the vibe you put off when you go do an estimate, right? The way you position your brand, what it feels like, what your company feels like is marketing. The tone of voice on the call. How many rings did it take? What was your voice inflection? What was your pacing? What was your mirroring like? The thickness of the literature when you give them the price or whatever, your email signature. It's this weird choreographed stuff that can get you free. And most small service companies are technically very competent. They love to argue about the ball bearing inverted jet flux capacitor technical part of the business, right? They love to talk shop and drink a Bud, well, do they drink Bud Light? I don't know. That's a different conversation. But they love to argue about that stuff. But the people making all the money actually getting free, actually taking their wife on the vacation that they promised her 10 years ago, these people are focused on that choreography, that marketing stuff every single time. That's the difference.
Yep. The redundancy of it, the same old, same old. We just talked about this before I pressed record on this thing, how a lot of people, they had this business, they built it up, and then all of a sudden now it's just doing great. But because all of us have this tendency to get bored, or maybe we have some kind of ADD or ADHD thing going on, right?
Oh, yes.
We just want to break it. Like you said.
We self-sabotage literally all the time. Like the biggest enemy is between your ears. It's you. It's the way that you view yourself. Like, it's one thing to think that success is possible. It's a totally different thing to think that it's possible specifically for you. And if you were raised poor or with a weird mindset around money, or if you think rich people did something bad to get it, you're sabotaging yourself. I see this all the time because I've coached and worked with over 1,000 local companies like this, like knees to knees, toes to toes type of thing over almost 15 years now. And as soon as things start to kind of work, people pull the pin on the grenade and just break stuff. So entrepreneur personality types are typically rebellious. There's a little bit of ADD. Half of these people are slightly on the spectrum somehow, right? And they're just distractible. But what's interesting is if they're going to miss their mortgage payment, they fix the problem like this. What happens is there's a panic number inside of everybody's brain. And so if your bank account, your panic number might be $500 in your checking account, or it might be $50,000 in your checking account. But what's fascinating to me is because we already kind of know what to do and how to grow, we just don't do it. We do know what to do, and I can prove it to you, because when we dip below the panic number, all of a sudden, boom, we go sell the job. Boom, we close the gap. Boom, we go, bah, 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 and now we're like, and then we just stop trying to keep doing the stuff until the panic number rears its head again. And then, and so what's happening is there's this hedonic curve. It's called the hedonic rhythm, but there's this curve. What we need to do is raise the baseline of what's normal for you. So it's really an identity thing. There's all kinds of weird psychology in it. It's been fascinating over the years to understand this. I don't think people have necessarily an information problem that much. It's mostly a behavior problem. Really obese people, they're not confused that like they know you like eating birthday cake for breakfast doesn't make tons of sense, right? They're not like confused, but they just do it anyway, right? So we know we have to like market and position our brand. It's not like that confused. It might be hard, but it's not complicated.
No.
We just don't do it. So the question is why? Why don't we do the very simple fundamental things that always work? Well, it has to do with identity, the way we think, the way we market to ourselves, what we think we're worthy of. That's actually where all the money is.
Is that ever true? Because I just talked to a fellow the other day. He's really struggling. And the first thing he says, well, every time I go out, I'm dealing with these guys who are like $5 a square foot, and I can't, but there's so many things that just pop up in my head when I think about what he's saying. And it's not just the competitor. It's all inside. It's all internal, right? And that's kind of the same thing that you were mentioning. And I'm just like, listen, man, like, do you have a vision? Do you actually know why you're doing what you're doing right now?
I can prove to you that it's all mindset stuff. I'll give you one example. So maybe for you, I don't remember what year you exited your service company, but or your original one. But isn't it interesting? Tell me if this is true.
Okay.
When you're really, really busy, you're booked 3 or 4 weeks out during the peak season, you're just busy. It's easier to sell your stuff. Your close rate goes up. Okay. You're selling everybody. But when there's no work on the schedule and you're in panic mode, you can't sell anything to anybody. Correct?
Totally 100%.
Why?
1000%.
The question is why? Okay, because nothing changed except your own brain, your own perception. It's something to think about because the vibe that you're putting off
Exactly.
totally changes the results that you get. And when you don't need the work and you're confident and you feel secure, you crush it, right? People are attracted not to desperation, but to certainty.
And
And
confidence.
so when you have certainty that you're the best, that you're going to wow and delight people and exceed their expectations, and you know that you're bad to the bone at what you do, it's way easier to sell. You don't have to convince anybody, but your certainty is persuasive all by itself. People are attracted to people with certainty, not confidence, not arrogance, but just confidence.
Yep.
So that's
And it's
something.
like pheromones. Like
Yeah.
people smell that.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like we're all connected. And I know to some people may believe this or not, but we all are connected in some way through energy, whatever it might be. Right?
Yeah.
I might suck energy out of you because I'm having a bad day and I'm being a total douchebag to you or something, right? And then you're just like, oh, this guy's exhausting, right? But that's energy transition, right? And so when you're out there and you're talking to somebody and you have a beautiful smile on your face because you're so happy to be in business and to serve these people at a high level, they're gonna feel that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
They're gonna feel that.
Sometimes I tell people that enthusiasm alone covers a multitude of marketing sins. So like, let's say that your brand isn't perfect, your logo's crooked, your mom's proud of it, but it's not that good. Your website's not the best ever, but you are just a magnetic fireball of enthusiasm. You're still going to crush it. You just will. It's literally competitive. I call it the Gordon Irwin effect. So think of Gordon Ramsay, the Hell's Kitchen guy, where he like people that aren't chefs love to watch him just scream at people because he's like, this is disgusting. This is the grossest. Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. Your mom is ashamed of you, right? But he's so passionate about his thing that it's literally magnetic. And when I say Gordon Irwin, that's Gordon Ramsay. The Irwin part comes from Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. Who doesn't love that guy? And may he rest in peace. But he's so passionate about the wombat and the baby crocodile crawling out of the swamp, and he's crawling in the bushes, and he's like, look at it, it's a beaut, right? Like if you're in concrete coatings and you're that way, you're literally unstoppable. And another thing to remember is that every category of every single product has high ticket luxury versions of it and the bottom of the barrel basement. I made a video the other day about this gum. You can buy gum. It's called Neptune gum. You can look it up. Their website is fascinating. It's $30 for a pack of gum. Okay.
Holy.
So I bought some. But the story and the positioning of it, it's super high ticket Louis Vuitton style gum. Okay. Does everybody buy it? No. But did millions of dollars worth of people buy it? Yeah. It's like crushing it. And it has to do with the brand and the positioning and the vibe and the certainty, right? Warren Buffett famously said that there's no competitive advantage to being the second most expensive. You don't want to be in the middle. So be the super high ticket thing that's not for everybody, or be the Dollar General. Both of those can work. It's just really hard to pay your bills in a service business if you're the Dollar General. But Walmart's business model technically works. They only have 1% to 3% net profit margins. I don't know if you knew that. So for a service company, we want to be the most expensive. We don't want to be like slightly higher than the $5 a square foot guy. We want to be like way different. So people are like, huh, what am I missing here? Or you want to be the $4.95 per square foot, which I don't recommend. But every category, even gum, this is normal. You're not supposed to get everybody. You're just supposed to get the ones that are for you.
Yeah. And so so we talked a lot about the positioning of, let's say you yourself, and you go out there and you do the quotes and you have this enthusiasm and they see this certainty and everything that you just mentioned. But how would that tie in? Well, here's an example. Brandon Beaufort from the Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
Total douchebag, but he's smart when it comes to sales. And he talks about this thing called 3 lines of uncertainty. Every customer has one. And basically how he breaks it down is your first line is your brand and your company. The second line is your product, service, installation, let's say. And then the third one is you or the salesperson. And he says, if any of those on a sliding scale from 1 to 10 are below 8, any of them are below 8, they will not buy from you unless they don't have a choice.
Mm.
And I just love that so much, because if you think about it in perspective that way, now you can just break it down. Okay, now what do I need to work on? I need to work on my brand. How do I get them to trust my brand with full certainty and get them over 8 or to 10?
Mhm.
Right. And then same with the product and service and installation. Like, do you truly believe in this so much that they believe in it? Like, how well is this? How well is it backed up by your warranty? Is it, everyone's doing lifetime warranty or 50-year warranty? Come on, guys. Like, I get it, okay, because that's what the market is doing. But do you stand by that? What does that mean to them? How certain are they to believe that that is actually true? And what's a lifetime anyway? Like, they've had a lot of objections with that. It's like, well, I'm going to be dead in 10 years or whatever, because they're a senior, right? And what's the lifetime of a home? Like, home ownership is what, 8 years,
Yeah.
something like that, right? And so having it set up in a way that now people are like, I'm trying to help them through that part too. It's like, how about lifetime of the home? Like, lifetime of them owning the home, right? And different ways of branding and positioning that you can put it out there to make them feel like, okay, well, that makes way more sense to me. And because it makes sense to me, I can trust you. And then that goes to the third line of uncertainty, right? How am I presenting myself, like we just talked about, with enthusiasm and all this other stuff? How am I presenting myself to you as the homeowner in a way that they feel like it's consultative, not aggressive, and they feel like, and do you recognize the words I'm saying? Feel like
Mhm.
they feel good about working with you. It's all about this. Every single person who has a transaction is emotionally based. Everything is emotionally based, just like the gum.
That's the key word right there, feel. I heard
Yeah.
this amazing quote a few weeks ago. It said, "It's not important what your customer thinks about you. It's important what your customer thinks about themselves because of you." Which is a whole mind trip of a thing. But Myron Golden always says the goal should never be to do something. The goal is to feel like doing something. And I know this is a little abstract, but hang with me, because the way that you feel dictates everything. Like, the thoughts in your head become beliefs in your heart, which become feelings,
Mhm.
right? Like your beliefs dictate feelings, and your feelings automatically dictate your actions. So think of a stick figure, right? The thoughts in your head become beliefs in your subconscious, which become feelings in your heart, which dictate the actions in your hand. The reason you do or don't market is because of subconscious beliefs. The reason your customers buy or don't buy is because of subconscious beliefs and feelings, right? So I know
Mhm.
that feels a little advanced, but there's so many practical things, and I'd be happy to share some if you want, that you can do that automatically make people feel different. They feel like, I stumbled upon this very unique, different type of contractor, right? It's not even hard to do it. Like you mentioned, guarantees. We need to be more creative with what we name our guarantees. I also tell people there should be levels of guarantees, right? You proprietize the language of your guarantees. So maybe there's 3 levels of guarantees, and the top one is called, the whiz bang, no question asked, 10 times your money back, super guarantee, right?
Mhm.
Well, no one gets that one, but that's the super extra one. That's another $500 if they want to upgrade to that guarantee. But during the sales process, you're like, you know what? Don't tell my boss. I'm just going to mark you down for that guarantee at no charge instead. So that's one silly example. But the point is that
Love
your
it.
guarantees, the naming of your package, the way you proprietize your process. For example, you could be the only company in the state of Michigan that offers the PPP, which is the personal property protection guarantee. What is the personal property protection? I don't know. It's whatever you're already doing, but now I've labeled it something
Yeah.
proprietary, and it's like, what? You're the only well, I want that. I don't not want the personal property protect. And then the other guy gives the bid, and like, well, do you guys offer the personal property protection? Well, no. What's that? We don't. I'm gonna go with Rudy's company. They have. So
Boom.
this is what I mean when I say everything is marketing and marketing is everything, because these types of chess pieces create feelings, and people feel like buying from you. They actually get nervous to buy from Larry, the other guy, which is really sad for him, because when you start losing bids, what people typically do, and you already know, they start lowering their price.
Exactly.
And it's this race to the bottom, and they think it's because the market is cheap, but it's actually because the choreography of phone call to estimate to the process and all that, it just doesn't work. There's no creativity injected in it. they
Mhm.
feel all weird and their pheromone vibration is off and all these things. And they just sabotage themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's so true, man. It's like, and it's, but like all of that though, like you said, all these things that you're talking about, getting like out of the box. And I like you saying that. I like, you got to think out of the box about the things that you're doing, right? I try to give them little pieces here and there. Like my clients, it's like, well, what's to stop you from writing them a thank you card and sending them in the mail? Just like, thanks for spending time with us. In their mind, they're instantly like, well, I already know I'm not going to get the job anyway. So it's a total waste of money. Like, are you kidding me right now? Assume as if that's already done, right? And
Yeah.
and if you go into the whole thing like that, then you're gonna have. And personally, I think this is why business owners who do sales always close the highest, because they have this authority, they have this sense of confidence because they believe in what they do the most, right? But then you get a sales guy in there, they can't close shit. And they're just like, I don't know why I'm sucking so bad. And then the business owner's like, why are you sucking so bad? Right. It's because they don't have this structure built, like you said. Like you got to have this whole thing, this belief system in your own company. That's branding. That's how you build a brand. It's culture. Is it not?
Really big companies typically compartmentalize and separate the customer service departments from the sales departments because they don't want their sales guys hearing any of the flaws or shortcomings or complaints or whatever ever. Like really good high performance sales teams, it's like a daily feeling management cadence. So they're doing hot seats, they're drilling stuff, they're sharing wins of the day, they're sharing customer testimonials every day to the sales floor. They're not sharing the Janet is super mad. She thinks we suck. She hates every part about our business. We keep that over here. Why? Why do they do that? Why do billion-dollar companies and 8-figure companies do that? Because it's all about the way you feel.
Yep.
So the other thing that can happen is if you know that your actual product isn't good or it's not excellent, you're also going to hold back on sales because you know it's off, it's broken, right? So
Yep.
if you know it's not that good, you're not worth $8 a square foot, and you just know you're not because your process isn't unique, you're not that amazing, you're going to hold back and sabotage it, and you're just going to sell out of desperation, which makes everything harder. It's really all the stuff between your ears. Literally it is. If you don't change your identity, if you don't level up who you believe you are, you cannot have more than you have.
Mhm.
One of my business partners, Michael Kaplan, he built a carpet cleaning business that did like $350,000 a week in revenue. Okay, that's a lot of dirty cat pee on carpet being sucked out. That's like crazy, right?
Yep.
But he said that every single result you're getting is because your business is perfectly calibrated to give you it. What that means is if you're broke, that's correct. There's nothing confusing. Of course, it's correct. Like the amount of money you have or don't have is accurate based on the things you're doing or not doing in the past. Your revenue is a lagging indicator of thoughts and feelings and things you did or didn't do 3 weeks ago or 1 week ago or 3 months ago.
Mhm.
If you don't change your thoughts, you can't change your life.
Yeah. Man, I love that. Yeah, I always say like what you do now affects you in 3 months. That's kind of like my thing. So, and then it's not necessarily about planning, it's about mental preparation, it's about who you are, and it's about creating this, figuring out the internal conflicts that you have. That's what I was telling the gentleman the other day. I said, listen, man, like go inward. Like I even said this. He's not gonna be a customer of mine because he's just not there. But I will say this. I spent over an hour with him on the phone just talking him through this. And I said to him, I'm just like, I don't want you to think, let's do an exercise and come back in a couple weeks and let me know where you're at. I said. So I said, I said, don't think about your competition anymore. Okay. What I'd like to see you do is come up with why you're doing it. What's the whole reason why you're doing this? And they'll always say, well, it's because I got tired of working for the man. I want to work for myself. If I'm doing the installs, working for somebody, I can do it myself. But in a sense, that's true. But there's a whole other business side of this thing that's so critical that a lot of people don't understand. And it's not a bad thing. It's just part of learning, just like what I had to go through and just like what you showed me in the beginning, right?
You just
Yeah.
nailed the problem, actually.
Mhm.
The typical small business owner isn't running towards something, they're running away from something. So there's a big difference between someone with a company that's running towards a destiny, a purpose, a mission, a mandate. These people become unstoppable. They do hard things. They show up. They grind different. Their vision's bigger. When you quit your job or fire your boss so you can make a few bucks more, you're not running towards anything. You don't know what you want. You only know what you don't want. And you don't
Yeah.
want to work for Steven because Steven is passive aggressive and you're tired of filling out his TPS reports, right? So you're like, screw you, Steven. I'm going to do it myself. That's fine. That's better. You being an owner operator that's broke, but on your own terms is better than working for Steven.
Yep.
But the way to get big results is to figure out what your purpose is, what your destiny is, what you're called to do. You got to run towards something, not just away from something. And that's a really hard question, because if you ask somebody, what do you want? Oh man, start asking people that, because they don't know. What they do, they tell you a list of things they don't want. You say, what do you want? They say, I don't want to struggle anymore. It's like, try again. That's the thing you don't want. What do you want? Well, I just don't want to work so many hours. It's right. It's hard. It's hard because we don't think about what we want. We're programmed to think about what we don't want.
Like a survival thing.
Sounds like a silly thing. It's huge. If you look at really high achievers, they almost have like this weird sense of destiny. Like Tommy Mello is a good example. I just was at an event with him in Vegas where he spoke and I spoke, and he's a maniac. If you don't know who he is, but he'll be a billionaire within 2 years from the garage door industry. He's completely nuts. He's an amazing guy. He created almost 30 millionaires that work for him as employees in his company already. Okay. This guy's vision is so big that it's like a universe, his vision. And he's got dozens of people that are building solar systems inside his vision, his universe. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
He's running towards something that's in the future. Most people, they're not. They're just trying to survive, not thrive.
And I wonder if he's thinking about the other garage door company that's charging half the price.
Well, not in the way that the little broke business is. No.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's aware, there can be value in kind of understanding what's going on, understanding new angles, new ideas, kind of having your pulse on it. But little companies get totally obsessed with the other companies. And it's really funny because let's say that 9 out of 10 of garage floor companies, none of them are that great. They're not going to become Tommy Mello companies. And so they're all looking at each other, trying to mimic each other. And they're all screwing each other over without even realizing it, right? It's like a toilet bowl. They're just going down and down and down and down. And if you can be the weird Louis Vuitton vibe one, and you can stick with it, you just create this separation. You got to understand, there's so many people dumber than you that already have what you want. Like, you don't have to be a genius. You just have to make a commitment to not mimic, Larry's company, and do the stuff Rudy's talking about. And over time, it's going to stack. Your competitors will hate you because you're going to be more money and you have a higher close rate once this all gets in place. And they're just going to keep lowering their prices. So I do it. Let them do that. It's okay to track your competitors. The main reason I tell people to track their competitors is to start sending acquisition letters to them. So I'm a huge,
that's amazing.
Yeah, you have a list, and you just send it every month or every 2 months, like, hey, we don't know each other, we're competitors, I've heard good things about you, man, I have an abundance mindset, but if you're ever thinking about moving or shutting down or leaving, I'd love to be the first call you make. I'd love to have a conversation. Conversations don't hurt anything. And you just keep sending it to them. People come and go out of these industries all the time. For basically pennies on the dollar, you could absorb their Google My Business, their phone number, their website, their customer list, things like that, for next to nothing, right? But be the leader in your market. Be the leader in pricing. A rising tide lifts all ships. Somebody's got to step out and do this. If you're going to be obsessed with competitors, build relationships with them, not just be a weirdo peeping Tom that's looking over the fence and, oh, he's using green on his flyer. Oh gosh, that's why he's succeeding. It's like, no.
It's so true though, man. Oh my God. Sometimes it just hurts my brain and I shake my head, but I have to be patient with them too and be honest and just understand that this is their journey too. They have to get through this and figure it out. Not everybody can. I know I sure didn't. When I first started my window clean, you know how much I struggled in the beginning, man. I was like, oh, I can't do this and blah blah blah. I'm only at $5 a window and I suck and this is all, like you said, brain. Everything that was going in the mind, right?
It's fear. I get it. FOPO. fear, overwhelm, procrastination, and overthinking. Can you relate to that, Rudy? Is it just me? Fear, overwhelm, procrastination, overthinking. It has to do with
Every day.
childhood. Do you think that like Elon Musk's kids, I mean, I think they're going to be weirdos. I think Elon's a genius, but also a complete weirdo. But do you think their kids are going to be like, man, I hope I can make a living. Man, I hope I can, like Mark Zuckerberg. I think he might be an alien or a lizard or something, but let's just assume he's not. He's got kids, right? So are his kids going to be like, man, I hope I can make it in this world? No, like it's
Yeah.
normal. Their frame of reference is work hard, have a mission, make $1 billion. That's what that means. If you work hard and have a mission, you make $1 billion. Whereas you or me, it's like work hard, be scared, make $50,000. That's what life is, right? And so when you're operating from that frame and you start a company, that's what you think. For example, if you think $1 million revenue business is big, it's going to take you a long time to get there because you're like, man, all right, I can get $1 million. I think I can do it. Let's lay out a good, solid 10-year plan. We're going to get there. Brandon Vaughn was a former business partner of mine and a friend of mine. When he took over his first company from his dad, who had a heart attack, they were doing about $100,000 a year in revenue. In Brandon's first business plan, he just grinded for hours and days, like thinking of everything. He sat his dad down. He's like, I think with a little bit of luck, and if we really follow this plan, we're going to do 120,000 this year. Like that was his plan, right? Well, he was doing $500,000 a month, 6 seasons into that business, right? We just have a misunderstanding of how big the opportunity is, of what normal is, So the point is, if you think $1 million is a lot and you think it's a 10-year plan, it will be. Whereas you take, Elon Musk kid or one of my kids, their expectation and understanding of what normal is, they're just going to do it faster, right? The U.S. Small Business Administration defines a small business as any company with less than 500 employees. Did you know that? Like, we think that someone with a $10 million business is like, oh man, that's so big. Well, it turns out it's actually nothing. It's a speck on the back of an amoeba on the back of a speck compared to real business. And so service companies as a category, we're just totally confused on what big even means, right?
Yeah.
So reframing that, getting around other people that think bigger is a huge shortcut to that. Pruning your friends group, trimming the people that you allow to speak into your life, limit your negativity to Thanksgiving. And it's okay if cousin Eddie tells you that you're nuts for starting a business and you should get a real job. If it's happening once a year at Thanksgiving, we're good. But if you're having weekend, poker games with your friends who are just small thinkers, it's going to kill your ability to go faster, to think bigger, and to ultimately get what you want.
Yeah. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to be said about that. The people that you have in your life, that circle of friends that you have, the peers, because you want to be socially connected to these people. Let's say they're high school friends. You've been buddies for years, 15 years, but they got a job and, they're Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and they go home, but they complain because they got to, pay for, what do you call that? Welfare or not? What is that? Kid checks for like 6 different wives that you had in the past and all this stuff. And you're complaining about you don't have any money and living in a crappy place. And it's like, well, that's going to trickle down.
Totally. 100%. You
right?
you can't help it from doing that. Yeah. Darkness rubs off on light much more easily than light rubs off on light. So basically, this is having an effect on you, period. You can't make it not have an effect on you. So you got to make a tough decision. A lot of people, they just have a fixed mindset. You need to be surrounded with people ahead of you. You should strive to be the dumbest person in the room and have a growth mindset. And this has happened to me over and over again. We were so poor, bro. We were so poor. I didn't start with nothing. I didn't go to Harvard. I can't spell good. I'm abysmally flawed and painfully average, Rudy. I promise. But there's been many moments where I was around people so much further ahead of me that thought so much bigger than me that I felt weird for thinking so small. And when you juxtapose that context against me hanging out with my high school friends as an example, I love my high school friends, but I wanted to grow. I wanted to go bigger. And that's part of how it works. You got to level up. Jim Rohn famously says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. One of the reasons a podcast like this is so useful is someone's in the field right now. Someone's driving in their truck right now. There's probably sticky notes all over their dashboard and clipboards and all kinds of crap in the truck. And they're like, man, and what they're doing is they're making you, Rudy, one of their 5 people.
Yeah.
It's huge. But it's not just about listening to positive things. It's about cutting out and eliminating the bad things, the limited thinking, the blame. Let's blame Trump. Let's blame Biden. The government's my daddy. All of these things are going to mess up your ability to create and build.
Yeah. And and it's funny because I can see a perspective different than they do, because I can see from the outside looking in, and I have multiple clients with multiple different mindsets. I have some who have that, you know what, I want to be like the dumbest guy in the room, and I want to bring in people on my team who are much smarter than I am. And like that mindset thinking, I get goosebumps when I talk to these guys because they're growing so fast. And I'm just like, oh, I align with these people on so many levels, right? And
it's not like they have 100-point bigger IQ than the stuck guy. It's not like they're, oh, well, you're a genius, that's why you're growing so fast. It's just the way they're framing it and thinking about it. That's literally it. It's actually one of the not disappointing parts about meeting successful people, but one of the interesting and unexpected parts about meeting really wealthy, successful people is they're kind of like painfully average and almost shockingly normal in almost every category.
Yeah.
Like they're not that smart. And it's actually very encouraging because you're like, wait a second. This is what this guy's actually like. I mean, if you hung out with me, and you have in real life, I think we're in a hotel room goofing off years ago,
Yeah.
and I'm just a person. I don't know. Like my dad jokes aren't that funny. I'm not in shape. I'm A shape. I'm not some fitness guru with a 4 a.m. workout routine with, I have dozens of followers on Instagram. I'm not a fancy person, but I've also built and sold 4 companies, generated over $20 million just on internet stuff I've sold, software and education and things like that. I've done some cool stuff. I've done some amazing stuff for me with my little frame where we started, while still being a painfully average regular guy. And one of the ways you can do that is by just curating the people that speak into your life, giving yourself permission to think bigger. You have to change who you are to change what you see. Lottery winners, I think it's like 80 something percent of lottery winners are bankrupt in 5 years. And the reason why is that the money result that's in their bank account is incongruent with their identity.
Yep.
And the money will catch up to your identity. Sounds weird, but it's irrefutably true. And so when you level up as a person, your bank account catches up. That's why I said earlier, the panic number people have, the goal is to raise the panic number. So if when you get to $500 in your account, you're like, and you solve the problem, what we want to do is make the panic number be $1,000. Solve the problem. Make it be 10,000. Make it be 50,000. I have friends, if they have less than $1 million in liquid cash in their checking account, they freak out. They're like, everything stop, solving the problem, boom, right? It's the same thing. You don't have to be a genius. There's just different expectations of what's normal and how big the opportunity is. A lot of little business owners too think that they've like tapped out their market. They're like, I'm doing 420,000, man. I think I tapped it out. Tapped it out. I got to do a second location, Rudy. I got to fire up that satellite location. It's like, are you sure? Have you seen that internet meme where the guy's like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Have you seen that?
No.
But
I got to find it now.
You got to look it up. It's hilarious. But it's like, no, you can do 7.2 million in the zip codes that you service. You could do 7.2. And they're like, no, I tapped it out. It's like, no, you didn't. And then they get distracted, and now they have 2 broken tiny things instead of 1, right? Their wife's yelling at them. They're mean to their dog when they go home. Everything's stressful and chaotic. It's a mess, man. It's a mess. And it's all about identity, belief, your feelings, all these things. Literally, that's what the whole game is.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I really want to kind of close this off with is, and it's the same thing I said to him was, or the guy I was talking about, like, go inside, guys. Just spend some time, write it down as much as you can. Like, what do I want? what do I really actually freaking want?
Yeah.
Right? Not don't want, like you said, but what do I want? And what do I believe in? What is true to me inside why I'm even doing this in the first place? And you know what's remarkable that pops out of all this is if you get honest with yourself, there could be some emotional things that happen. Trust me, I've done this and it can be hard, like emotionally draining, right? And you put this stuff down, oh, all of a sudden you have a vision. Oh, all of a sudden you have core values. Oh, all of a sudden you have a mission, and it all just comes from everything inside. Am I wrong in saying that? Because that's how it happened for me, and it is amazing.
I will say it's very hard to figure this out. It takes real work. I can give you a little framework I use that's a shortcut that's helpful for a lot of people.
That'd be great.
So the first thing before I share the framework, and because people are like, well, what is my purpose? What is my mission? I don't have a purpose. You don't need a purpose. I just need to be happy and live my life. Okay, fine. You do you, boo. Okay, you're good. Just you're good. You'll figure out that you're wrong later. I'm good with it. Anyway, so there's a shortcut to figuring out what you were made to do. I personally believe, because we love Jesus over here, okay? We won't have church on your podcast. Don't panic, Rudy. But I believe that everyone was created for a purpose and on purpose. I don't think people were cosmic accidents. I think you were created to create stuff and made to make stuff, that you have unique talents, skills, and abilities, that God prepared good works for you to do before the foundations of the world. I mean, I think you were literally designed to do epic stuff, okay? Humans are like apple trees, except we have goodwill. Meaning, imagine an apple tree that's in a bad mood on Tuesday. And it's like, I don't want to make apples today. That's a human. Okay. Every other thing that God made has to produce 100% of its potential, except humans. So the apple tree planted in bad soil and it only produces 11 apples and then it dies. That apple tree produced 100% of what it could produce based on the soil and the climate and the river it wasn't by, right? And then you have this other apple tree that produces 15,000 apples. Both of them produce 100%. Humans are like grumpy apple trees. They're like, I don't want to have a purpose. I want a Netflix. It's like, okay. And that's fascinating. But your business is not who you are, it's what you do. Okay. That's step number one. We get our identity confused and wrapped in with our business. And this is provable too, because especially with men, if you go to a cocktail party and there's a bunch of men standing around peacocking, like, hi, John, nice to meet you, John. Hey, Josh Latimer, how are you? When that's happening, what do men say to each other? They say, hey, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
That's always the first thing. And why do they ask that? I'll tell you why. It's because they're trying to hierarchy each other. And what they're really asking is, so are you above me or below me? Oh, below me. Excellent. That makes me feel great about myself. Oh, you're in a floor coating. I'm a tenured professor at the community college, right? The point is we think that what we do is who we are.
Yeah.
Nope. So step one, your business is a vehicle to drive you to your purpose. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Understand?
Yep.
Now,
Love that.
your purpose. Well, I don't know what your purpose is, but here's the mental framework, the hack. It's a Venn diagram. Imagine there's a circle, then there's a second circle, and there's a third circle. And where all three of those intersect and overlap, that's going to give you a real close indication to get in the neighborhood of figuring out what makes you uniquely you and what your purpose could be. In the first part of the circle are what I call your goosebumps. Okay, your goosebumps. What
Mm-hmm.
you into flow state? You just said a minute ago that there's certain people when you talk to them, you get goosebumps. Okay, I call that the anointing. Okay, where you're just like, oh, I love this. Right, like you're so good at something, or you're in flow state, or right. There's things that all of us do. Singers sing and writers write, and birds fly, right, and fish swim. For you, there's a thing that you do, whoever's listening to this, where you're just like, God, that's a thing. And you just feel the momentum, the flow state. That happens for everybody with something.
Yeah.
Figure that out. The next box are what I call insatiable curiosities. What are you a nerd about? I have a t-shirt that says nerd mode on it. Everybody's insatiably curious about different things. For me, it's like marketing and behavioral psychology and the way money works. I think money is actually spiritual, not just physical. It's not about physicality. It's about all these other things. I am a nerd. I think a blade of grass is unbelievably interesting. I could read a Wikipedia article about some guy named Galvarino, who is a Chilean tribal warrior in the 16th century who got his hands chopped off by the Spanish conquistadors to scare away the tribal people from fighting. But then he strapped on actual swords to his bloody stumps and went back and fought again, which inspired his tribe to never give up. And then they got their freedom. Why do I know that? I can't not want to know that.
Yeah, in the same way.
So insatiable curiosity, goosebumps, and the goosebumps, they overlap. And then the third one is your talent stack. It's like, what are you good at? Like, where are your skills at? It could be natural ability or just talent. So you understand digital marketing and branding at a deep level. So you have these certain talents with certain nerdy curiosities with a goosebump. And you see, it paints a picture of like where your lane is. And when you're living in your purpose like that, no one can compete with you at all. And your competitors become irrelevant because they don't know any of the stuff I just said. They're not even thinking thoughts like this, I promise. And you start to just change the way it feels. You show up different. You understand your business isn't who you are or isn't what you are. It's just what you do. And things start to shift. Things get easier. Your pricing goes up. You can raise your panic number. All of your identity starts to upgrade, especially if you're changing the room of people you're in, right? I hope that wasn't too complicated, but
It was amazing.
That's the game right there.
Yeah. No, that was actually amazing. And that's what I tell prospects and clients too. I'm like, guys, like, I don't even think, do you know how many competitors I have for floor coating marketers? It's insane.
Good Lord, infinity plus 7.
Just having a marketing agency in itself. When I decided to get into it, that was my first fear. I was like, oh my God, I got to compete with tens of thousands because I don't do local. I'm national and North America, basically, except for Mexico. Right. And like, oh my God, that's like all this fear came in because of the same thing that we were talking about. But now the only time they ever come up is when somebody brings them up to me. That's the only time it ever crosses my mind because I don't focus on that, right? I focus on purpose. How can I serve my clients at the highest level? How can I create an amazing support system? How can I make people believe and feel like when they work with me, they've made the right choice and that they can trust me to do a good job? How do they feel like their life will change because I've partnered with them? That's my purpose.
Yeah, and you're a flavor of ice cream, Rudy. You know, the movie Cars, there's a scene where Mater, he eats this wasabi, but he thinks it's pistachio ice cream. And he's like, attention, the pistachio ice cream has turned, right? Because it tastes gross. But anyway, you're a flavor. Everybody's a flavor. You don't need all the people. You need your people. And for a floor coating company, what's the average ticket on a floor? Like $3K or something like that?
Yeah, 25 to 3K, I think.
Okay, so that means that every 300 clients is $1 million ish. You don't need 17,000 clients. You need 300 to make $1 million. You know, or another way to frame it is every million is 1,000 thousands. That's all it is. You don't need everybody. You just need X amount of people to build the lifestyle business that you want, to use your business as a vehicle to drive you to your purpose, which for some people is generosity, or it's ministry, or it's becoming the best T-ball coach in all of Southeast Wichita. Like your business is that meant to serve you so you can do that thing. The market is big. It's way bigger than you think it is. Opportunity is way bigger than you think it is. And the best part about small business isn't the result you get, it's who you become as you're doing it. It changes who you are.
Another goosebump.
Goosebump.
I love it. Well, you know what? We're at the top of the hour here. So, Josh, thanks a lot for spending time with me today. I mean, I knew this was going to be high value, like massive gold nuggets for everybody, as you always do. It's always such a pleasure talking to you and listening to you, just listening to your voice. Is that creepy when I say that? But it's just, it's just super awesome that you're here, man. I really appreciate it. And I think that the listeners are going to really see this as a really valuable thing. And hopefully they will start making some impactful changes in their lives too.
The ones that will, and the ones that won't yet. And that's okay. You know, I've seen people just kind of not get it. And then all of a sudden they do it. I've seen people, you can give people literally a 3-step plan to be a multimillionaire. And they're like, nah, like they won't implement it. They're just like, nah, for 4 years. And then all of a sudden like, oh, okay, boom. I've seen that over and over. So when they're ready, they're ready. When the student is ready, the master will appear, or whatever that weird quote is. You keep doing what you're doing, adding value, and it's going to come back, man. It's reaping and sowing, and you're adding value for free into the world, and it's going to be good for you, man. So happy to know you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Talk soon.